Welcome to episode 42 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, tips, and apps, and gear. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my guest this week is Mr. Guy Serle from the MyMac.com podcast. How you doing, Guy?
I'm doing fine. I mean, you're really kind of hitting the bottom of the barrel here, I think, Dave.
I guess I was, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and we're going to be talking on Saturday, too, so
yeah.
I don't know what
I'm doing to myself, but,
you certainly are a glutton for punishment.
I am, but if anybody noticed, this is, we're just continuing on with our guests, and I wanted to have some fun here with you this week, Guy, and I've got a lot of other guests planned for the next future episodes, but that's the future. This is now. And we have a lot of cool things to talk about today, including some really good news stories I found. And then what we'll do is I wanted to actually ask you what kind of iOS devices you have, and then how do you use them? So we'll hold that thought, and you'll
okay
about that. And I'm going to hit on Apple TV a little bit, some remote tips. Had some listener feedback from Steven, which I think you actually met at MacStock. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then a couple other tips, tricks. And then I did have some gear. I probably should have told you to get, maybe you should have some gear. Maybe you could think of something as you go here. Let's see where we're at the end of the show here. So,
are you talking about what gear to talk about?
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily have to be connected with iOS, right? It could be anything.
We'd like it to be, but if you have something fun, we'll squeeze it in.
All right.
So let's get right into the news here. The first article that caught my eye was Apple's new iPhone XR has been the most popular and best-selling iPhone since October launch, and it doesn't seem like everybody is saying that too much of that fact. But it seems to be declared by everybody else in the press and Apple, and but it must be selling well, because they aren't complaining. But I know according to this article anyway, through Mac Rumors.
The thing that kind of cracks me up is, for the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure you've talked about it on the show, there's been all this gloom and doom from the analysts going, they're cutting production.
They're
starting up the iPhone 10s again. The 10R isn't selling like you can see. Nobody can see, but my hands are waving frantically. And and it's like, okay. And then all of a sudden Apple comes out and says, well, the the 10R has been the most popular phone since it's been launched. And it just takes the wind right out of the sails of all these people, because the difference is analysts' feet aren't held to the fire when they say something stupid. Whereas if someone from Apple makes a statement like this and it can't be backed up, they can go to jail. So, honestly, who am I going to believe? I think I'm going to believe Apple.
I think I am too. And then, of course, they already made comments after their earnings call, and then the stock's been going down the dumpers, which we don't need to get into that, but it's coming back. That they're not going to announce any numbers anymore on what they sell. So they're just going to kind of let everybody guess.
And the thing, nobody else does. Nobody else in the smartphone industry other than Apple.
Yeah.
And and let's face it, even with Apple, it was like, well, they sold 2.1 million. It's like, okay, well, is that 2.099 million, or is that 2.11 million? It's like, no, they just, what, it was a crap load of phones. Okay. That's really all that you need to know.
Yeah, exactly. So they sold, they're selling well. I'm loving it, because I'm starting to see people at my work. Someone today said to me, I got a new phone. I'm not ready to move over to it yet because I'm traveling. But he got the iPhone XS Max. I was like, holy cow, that's great. So I've seen a couple more people getting the Maxes like me. So it's good to hear. And let's face it, the 10R is going to sell well. It's a good phone.
Well, my son Peter just bought a 10R.
Oh, did he? And does he like it?
Yeah. He doesn't have it yet.
Okay.
He was on we have kind of a similar story. We were both on 6 Pluses.
Gotcha.
And I don't know, I can't speak for him, but I was delighted with my 6 Plus. I wasn't, I passed on the 6S and I passed on the 7. And when the 10 was first announced and the 8 along with it, I passed on those. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the phone just went, and it was like, oh crap. Because I knew it wasn't the battery, because I just had the battery replaced 9 months ago. So it was like, okay, well, this now 4-year-old iPhone 6 Plus, which is, 4 years for a smartphone is actually pretty good, has now taken a dump, and I need to get a new phone.
No.
So I went down to Apple, and it was on, I think it was like Christmas Eve. So, the place was like super packed, and I walk in.
That's a good time to go there.
It was a ballsy move. It really, really was. So I go in there and I say, well, my phone isn't working. And they, of course, they pick it up and they hold it reverently and in their little silk pajamas and whatever. They take it into the back and then they come back with a sad look on their face. I'm sorry. So your iPhone,
sure, yeah.
Your iPhone is no more. So I was like, crap. So now I need to get a new phone. And I looked at the 10s, that the 10 and the 10 Plus, or that was what it was, right? 10 and 10 Plus last year.
The 10. There was no Plus.
There was no Plus. Okay, well I looked at the 10, and I looked at the 8 and the 8 Plus, and it was like, as nice as the 10 was, I wasn't really ready to give up Touch ID yet. So, and Face ID was brand new. I didn't want to screw around with it yet.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go with the 8 Plus. So I did. And when Peter's phone, it was just a week ago, started kind of exhibiting the same sort of symptoms, he was like, you know what I could use for Christmas, Dad? Because both my sons are still on my cell phone plan for reasons. I mean, it's not like they have jobs or anything. And so for kind of an early Christmas present, I said, you know what? I'm not going to buy this phone for you. You're making money. However, I will give you $300 toward the phone, which I thought was more than generous. So he ended up getting a blue 10R 256.
Cool.
And we'll see how he likes it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear back. See how he likes it, because I know our friend Dave Hamilton bought a 10R, and he actually seems to be liking it. He hasn't said a lot about it, but he does have the 10R. So there's plenty of people out there that have it. So
what was he going from? I don't think I've ever heard him talk about his phone before.
I thought he had the 8, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he had the 7. I can't remember. But anyway.
So he was going from Touch ID to Face ID.
Right.
Okay.
So anyway, I actually moved up a news story here because this kind of transitions right into it. Again, I love Mac Rumors. I always get some great news stories from Mac Rumors, and they're not necessarily rumors. So that website has really turned out to be a great source for news and information. Apple has made some changes to the promo offers on what you can trade in your device. If you go, I moved that link in the show notes there, the second article, if you haven't clicked that already, Guy. They have starting at the iPhone 6, Apple will give a total extra credit of $150 for an iPhone 6. That would go towards the purchase of a 10R or a 10S. Yeah. So the customers will get between $25 and $100 extra. That's pretty awesome, if you ask me.
I wish I had known that before we bought Peter's phone. Apple.
This was just the article that we're recording this on Thursday, the 29th. This was 2 days ago. So if you look here, the 6 Plus, $200, the 6S, $200, 6S Plus, $250. So all the way up to the 8, they'll give $300 for an iPhone 8. So
wow, see, he could have gotten $500 off his new phone.
Yeah,
he's paying $300, and Apple gave him $200.
And this is through Apple. So I mean, because they've actually done a lot better job of taking in trade-ins. Because when I went and bought my Apple Watch, the Series 4, I traded in my Series 3, and they gave me $275 for it. So I mean, that's nice.
I'm still on a 3.
Yeah, no, which is fine. No, 3 is still fine. I mean, I just when they said $275, and of course, me, I'm the early upgrader. I can't admit. Everybody who listens to this show knows that I'm the crazy early upgrader, and do the 1 year trade-in plan every year. So, I think that's an absolutely great deal. So check that out. Other thing I want to talk about was Google Project Fi, or now it's called Google Fi. Their cellular service is now supporting iPhone. I'm super excited about this. They announced a major expansion on the smartphone plan originally the Google Fi service was only limited to Android devices and mostly Pixels, so the Google products, and then they had
it's easier for them to support since it doesn't have crap on it.
Yeah, exactly. But they were offering.
Not that we're saying anything bad about Android.
That's right.
Full of crap.
No, we don't like Android. But
Android sucks. Sorry.
So I was pretty stoked about this because I had it on a Pixel 2 and I tried it out, and it's pretty awesome because you can use the eSIM, which is that electronic SIM, to set up service. And they're expanding the service with iPhone. Now,
so is it just an app that you have to get?
There's an app you download on your iOS device. It's in that article, and you just download for the setup steps. But you do have to request a SIM card, and they'll send you a free SIM card. So you don't need to go to a carrier if you want to set up service. A lot of times they charge you for the SIM card. You just activate the device. It's great service because they piggyback on their MVNO. I think it's MVMO. I always forget the acronym of what those are. They're third-party carriers that kind of piggyback onto the big carriers.
Right.
T-Mobile, Sprint, and US Cellular is their three big carriers that they use. And basically, when you're using their service, the service will decide what's the best signal and connection. So one time you could be on T-Mobile, other times you could be on Sprint, or you could be on your Cellular, depending on where you are. So that's what's great about it. So it's always having a good experience because you're going to be on the service where it's got the best signal.
One thing I'm seeing here is calls and texts cannot be made over Wi-Fi with Google Fi, and when outside of the U.S., the data hotspot feature won't work.
Right. Yeah. So there are some limitations, but
your mileage may vary.
Mileage may vary, and it definitely, I think, it was an exciting thing to do. MNVO. I always get those letters switched over. So that's what they are. A service like Cricket and Boost Mobile, those kind of services are called MNVO services.
It's basically they're just buying blocks of data blocks from the big four.
Yeah, exactly. Check it out. If you're looking for a good carrier, I highly recommend it because I was using it on a Pixel 2 XL, and it was working great. So check it out. And next news story was watchOS 5.1.2 will now finally enable the ECG app on the Apple's Watch Series 4. They demoed that during the session last. Was it this month or last month? This month, I think.
Yeah, when they had the
Apple event.
Yeah,
and this is supposed to be your echocardiogram, and it will feature an Apple designed ECG app that allow you to indicate whether or not your heart rhythm shows signs of atrial fibrillation or AFib. And a serious form of irregular heart rhythm. And the way you can do it is you actually you touch the stem right on the watch, and it actually measures what your heart rate is. This is going to get finally enabled in watchOS 5.1.2, which is, I believe, going to get released pretty soon here. Still in beta.
Yeah, if it doesn't work for you, don't panic.
Yeah.
You might not be on a Apple Watch Series 4.
It has to be a Series 4, right?
So look at it. I'm dying. Oh God, I'm dying. Yeah. Oh wait, I'm on a Series 2 watch. Never mind.
No, it does. It says the ECG app will not be available on previous generation Apple Watch models, including the original through Series 3.
What if it was the gold one? That it should work on that one.
Yeah, well, $17,000 later,
Yeah,
what crazy people who bought that. I feel bad for people who actually paid money for that watch because that watch is.
You know what? I don't, and I'll tell you why. If you have that much money and no freaking sense to spend $17,000 on what is essentially the same watch that somebody else paid $350 for, but the case is made from gold, you pretty much deserve whatever it is you get.
Yeah.
So your phone isn't your watch isn't going to be able to be upgraded to a 2 or a 3 or a 4, and you have a $17,000 paperweight. Good job.
Yep.
Thumbs up.
Pretty much. Yep. Because the original series, that was actually the Series 0, as they call it, or just the first original gen watch. My wife had that watch, and it just was slow as molasses. It won't upgrade past, I think, was it 4.3.2, and it was was a brutal just getting it to upgrade altogether on that old watch. So, and we talked about this on previous episodes of the watch. Yeah, if you got one of those older models, upgrade. I mean, Series 3 is fine. Series 2, it's okay.
I've got a series, and I got a Series 3 from. Well, I won't go into the story, but I got a Series 3 at a pretty good price. Yeah. So, and I'm perfectly happy with it. Yep. I'm wearing a watch more now than I have in years.
There you go. And we're going to talk about that. And then another story caught my eye, and I always dread going to Macworld's website because it's like spam and ads that just pop up at you like crazy.
Like Star Trek Discovery right there on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. And the Quaker Oats ad I'm seeing right now. But this was a good article because it's written by Jason Snell, who's the de facto Apple guru, 6colors.com, and great guy. So he wrote an opinion article, and it caught my eye because Apple TV is really going to start becoming, I think, even more relevant than it's ever have before, because Apple is working on a video streaming service. And unfortunately, as we know, Apple, they don't like to get products. They don't like to pre-announce, but they also don't like to they don't want to release products that are like really dirt cheap. So right now, if you buy an Apple 4K Apple TV, it's $149 for the regular model, and the 4K is $179. So it's a little pricey.
I thought it was internal storage that made the difference. I think they were both 4K, weren't they?
I thought they were still selling the. Let me see what it's in the article, but they were still selling the fourth gen model for $149 and the 4K model for $179.
Okay.
So they are still selling the fourth gen. So the fourth gen, and then the 4K. Going in fours there. But Jason suggested, and I think a lot of people have been talking about this, is maybe they should come up with a thing like an Apple TV stick, similar to what Amazon has. Because if they had that, how many millions of people that would be subscribing to their video streaming service? I mean, it really could be something pretty awesome. But the question is Apple willing to sell something that cheap? They're not known for that.
I think what they could possibly do is wait until they actually have a TV service,
right?
And then
that's what they're going to wait. That's what he says.
Yeah, and then include some kind of Apple TV, whether it's a stick or a box or whatever.
Yeah.
With a commitment to a 1 or 2 years to the Apple TV service.
Yeah. So
is that what he says in here?
Yeah.
I should have read this before we did this.
It was I put it in the show notes a little late, but it was there. Actually, I think I added it later. So, but just kind of skimming through the article, if you hadn't read through the whole thing, we'll have it in the show notes, of course. I agree with Jason with this. I think if Apple, he pretty much ends the article by saying, "You're a move, Apple." So let's see what Apple does. I really think they should think about it, because if you're looking at Amazon's Fire TV technology and the Roku box set, those are so cheap. You buy those next to nothing. Even a Chromecast, you can, not that the 4K is $69. I mean, you can, there's some lots of different choices on the low end, but I like the Apple TV interface. I really do. I mean, I like the apps. I like how it flows, because I'm so used to iOS. So you have an Apple TV?
Yeah, I have 2 of them.
Okay, so
I have the first gen small black box.
Oh my God, I remember that one.
Then that's upstairs, and then downstairs I have the last, not the most recent one, but the one before that.
No, the fourth gen.
Fourth gen.
Yeah.
Honestly, of all the competition within the TV space for streaming boxes, I think the only one that Apple should really be concerned about is Roku.
Yeah.
I don't think Amazon is really a player. And the thing that kind of makes me think that Roku is the one to look out for is they're the ones making the deals to have it included inside of smart TV sets.
Yeah.
And so far, it's and this is the kicker here. It's mostly in the cheaper sets, like the TCL brands or the Hisense brands, things along those lines. Right. The ones that people are picking up in Black Friday sales and things along those, are saying, wow, I can get a 55-inch 4K, 60 hertz.
Westinghouse.
Yeah, Westinghouse TV set.
RCA.
Yeah, the weird thing is those used to be high-end brands.
I know.
And now it's like, wow, Westinghouse, do I want
Sylvania?
Yeah, it's like Sony. Who buys Sony? No. But they're including the Roku, basically the Roku box within all of the TV sets.
Right.
And that's the part that if I was Apple, I would be worried about, because if you have a service, and frankly, I don't think Roku gives a damn whether you're watching Apple content or you're watching Amazon content or you're watching Google content. They don't care, because they've got their hardware in the TV set that you're using. So, and the other part of this is, and I have the service and I can't remember what it's called. There's a service out right now where it doesn't matter where you bought video from. You can watch it on any device.
Oh yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
I can't remember the name of it, but Apple is in it. I think Amazon is in it. Sony is in it. There's a lot of high-end companies that are in this, and I think this is an effort on the part of these companies to consolidate the madness of what is content right now. Because, one of the things that people complain about with Apple, and it's not an illegitimate complaint, is that you've bought so much content from iTunes, movies and TV shows and music and everything, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I don't want to use an iPhone or an iPad anymore. I want to go see what life is like over on the crappy side and get an Android phone and an Android tablet and blah 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 blah. And now all of a sudden, all this content that you have legitimately paid for through Apple, you can't use. And the kicker is, it's not Apple's fault, because Apple doesn't own the content, and neither does Amazon, and neither does, for the most part, Sony and Google and all these other companies that will sell you content.
Yep.
They don't own the content.
They license it,
and they sell you a digital copy that you are, as part of whatever service it is that you're using, that you're entitled to watch whenever it is you want to watch it on whatever devices have been designated as being capable of watching this content. But when people move from Google to Apple, or from Apple to Amazon, or whichever it is, and all of a sudden they find out, wait a second, that $500-600 that I spent on television and movie content, I can't watch anymore. And this kills momentum for digital content. And I think not only are the big companies that sell you the players, that not only do they understand this, but I think even the content copyright holders are beginning to get that. You're kind of killing the goose that lays the golden egg here. If you're limiting how people can watch this content that they have legitimately purchased, because their next step is to find, well, I paid for Jumanji for whatever reason, and I'm going to go ahead, if I can't watch it legitimately from the copy that I purchased, then I'm going to go find it over here in the magic internet that has a copy of it someplace. And then once they figure out how to do that, then they can figure out how to watch any movie it is they want to watch.
But that's a whole other topic. But
I didn't mean to go down that road.
That's okay. So check out that article. It was a great piece. I'm excited to see what happens in 2019 with the Apple streaming services. Again, that's a rumor.
We've been waiting a long time.
We've been waiting a long time, and I think Apple sees it. I mean, with Netflix and everything else that's going on with streaming services, it's something they really should be looking at. So. All right, that was a lot of some good news I wanted to talk about for this episode. Let's get into the topics. I wanted to ask you, because you are my guest and I appreciate you being here, and I want you to talk to us about your iOS devices and what do you have, how do you use them, and just tell us. You have an iPhone, I know which model you have.
I was born many, many years ago.
And an iPhone, and you had the first generation iPhone.
I have the first. It actually has a dial on it for the numbers. It's so old. Actually, I didn't start off with the iPhone until the I think it was the 3GS.
Yeah, same here. I didn't have the first gen.
Came out. I didn't get the 1. I didn't get the 2. I didn't get the 3G. I started with like the whatever the 4th gen was.
I had 3G.
So I was at the iPhone keynote in 2007.
No, you were the Macworld Expo dude.
Well, Tim Robertson, who owns mymac.com.
Right.
That was the first San Francisco Macworld Expo that I ended up going to. Tim invited me to go along with him and some of the other guys over there at mymac.com.
Yeah.
Plug.
We'll get some at the end. But really, I don't want to go down the history rabbit hole, but
okay.
I want to talk. What do you have now? And
all right. Well, I have an 8 Plus.
Right, which is a great phone. And everybody knows my 8 Plus story, that I bought the 8 Plus, and then 2 months later I traded it in and got the 10.
Got the 10. Okay.
If you remember that, I'll still never let that one down, because I was a dummy and couldn't wait and had to get the iPhone 8, and then turned around and sold the iPhone 8 Plus and lost money on it and went with a 10. But I was happy that I went with the 10. So anyway, go ahead. You have the 8 Plus.
So I got the 8 Plus, and on the iPad side, this is now my third iPad. I had third. I had a 1, a 3, and then I had the iPad 3 until the first iPad Pro came out, the first 12.9 inch. And I went big. Big.
I had that.
I got the 128, and then 6 months later, Apple came out with the 256. And I'm not bitter about that at all.
You don't need that much space. Come on.
Not even. I'm not even a little bit bitter about that.
Okay.
So, but what I use, my phone is generally, it's a spam machine. So I get lots of calls from people that I don't know.
I get a fair amount of those too.
So I have a really, really long block list.
Mine's
my wife sends me Moby Dick sized texts because she discovered the joys of voice text. So she'll just sit there and dictate it to her phone, and then he comes to me and it's like, oh my God, why didn't you just call me? If you got that much to say, call me. Other than that, just some games and stuff. I don't really do a whole lot on my iPhone. It's just kind of my portable, here I am device, and you can contact me for whatever reason you contact me. My iPad, on the other hand.
And which one do you have now?
I have the first gen iPad Pro.
Oh, okay, you're still with that. Okay, which I did have, and I actually, when you were at Mac Stock, I did my presentation. I had both the 12.9 inch and the 9.7 inch to compare them, because I had to have both.
Of course.
But I've no longer done that. So anyway, go ahead.
What is that now?
I have the iPad Pro 11 inch, the newest model.
Okay, yeah, that's nice. I was really tempted.
It's nice. And
if I was going to get anything from the last Apple event, it would have been the 11 inch iPad Pro. But anyway,
but you have the first gen. And the first gen's a nice device. I sold it.
It is, and I have absolutely no reason to replace it with something else other than I want to.
No, there was no reason for me to either, but I got lucky and I had the Pro 10.5 inch and I ended up selling it for a really good price. So.
Okay. I have used the last couple of Macworld Expos, I didn't even take a laptop. I did everything on iOS. I recorded podcasts. I blogged. 2010
was the first year of the iPad. So when did Macworld go away?
2014.
Okay, so for 4 years.
Macworld 2013 and 2014, I did not take a laptop.
There you go.
I recorded interviews on the phone and would then just transfer the audio over to the iPad to include with multi-track podcasts that I was recording. Yeah. Oh God, please don't ask me what app I used for that.
No,
there were several that I tried.
That's okay. That's good.
But as long as the device that you were recording from, and in this case, it was a IK multimedia something Pro. It had 2 XLR inputs and separate gain controls, and it was such a nice little machine, and it enabled me to have 2 different microphones that I could record on 2 different tracks. So we would set up in the press room and record with like 4 people on 2 microphones into my iPad.
I was there when you were recording it. So
were you there? That's right. You were there for 2014.
No, I was for Mac Stock when you were using it for Mac Stock 1 year.
Oh, okay.
No, I never went to Macworld. I never had the pleasure.
Oh, so much fun. I went to the New York one for a couple years too, just before they closed that down. I seem to be like the Black Death when it comes to Macworld.
So it sounds like you're still very active with your iPad, which is great, because a lot of times I hear people say,
it's a consumption device.
And that's why when we talked about in the previous episode, don't buy the iPad Pro if all you're doing is watching Netflix,
YouTube videos,
YouTube videos. Not this new Pro. The other ones are fine. And you have an Apple Watch, of course. You said you have the Series 3, and what you get do you get any good use out of that? What do you like to do on your Apple Watch?
Well, because I have CarPlay in my Kia Soul.
That's right. I remember seeing that.
So one thing that I really, really love about CarPlay and its Apple Watch integration is, even if I have the sound completely turned off, like I'm using either Google Waze or Apple Maps for navigation, and I'm loving not Google Waze, but just Waze.
I think Waze is Google owns Waze.
Is it Google? Okay,
but it's not called. It's not called Google Waze.
It's still Waze, yeah, because you can just use regular Google Maps for that matter. But whether I'm using Apple Maps or Waze, as I'm driving along, I'll be coming up to a turn, and my phone will buzz on my wrist. If I have to go left, it'll give me one type of buzz. If I have to go right, it'll give me a different type of buzz. So I don't even really have to take my eyes off the road. I can, and look down at my screen or try to listen to whatever the Siri equivalent of CarPlay is. And it'll just say, oh, okay, this next turn I have to make a right, or I have to make a left, or merge over this way, and it's great. And one of the things that I was looking for when I got my next car, and this was just back in July, because I got the Soul just before I went to Chicago for Mac Stock.
Right, I remember because I saw it for the first time.
Yeah, was that it had CarPlay in it. I was not going to get a car that didn't have CarPlay.
That's going to be my next decision, but I won't be buying a new car for a while. But I will be buying it with CarPlay going forward.
It's eye-opening, and
absolutely, because you're using your iPhone all the time, and really, of course, we turn on the should not be driving while you're should not be using your iPhone while you're driving, and you turn that notification on. This way, it's all right onto your touch screen, so you don't have to. You're doing it without losing focus of driving. So
and you can. Almost without exception, all of these cars that have CarPlay have a USB port built into it. So you take your USB to Lightning, that plugs into your phone, so your phone is being charged at the same time that you have all of this information for music and podcasts and audios and navigation and telephone and messaging. I mean, even hands-free messaging. Yeah. I basically just hit a little button that's there on my steering wheel. It says, well, who do you want to talk to? I said, well, I want to talk to my wife, Tracy. Oh, okay. It brings up Tracy. And what do you want to say? I say what it is. It says, are you ready for me to send it? I say, yes. And poof, it's gone. So I don't have to do anything. I don't have to take my eyes off the road. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's great. So, all right. Well, it sounds like you get a lot of use out of all of your iOS devices, like I do, and that's why I had you on here, because as well as we both are.
I thought it was my sparkling personality.
Yeah, well, it's that too, but it's it's fun to talk to other people who really enjoy the Apple ecosystem, the Apple products, and I'm not saying I'm not that biased, because, like I said, I'll go play with an Android device like the rest of us, but I don't want to do it. But you got, with me being in IT support and doing IT professional, you got to stay on top of these things.
Well, okay, if you're gonna use that excuse.
So, all right, good. I love hearing about what you're using your devices for. Let's move on. I haven't done this topic before, but talking a little more in depth about Apple TV.
Okay.
The Apple TV's remote, that has always been an interesting device as far as how
that's a word for it.
If I call it a device, I guess. And when they redesigned it with the touch trackpad, you pick up that remote. I'd be tapping the bottom of the remote because I'd be like, you can see it on the camera. Look, it's not working.
What's wrong? Why won't it work?
Because the trackpad is a pretty nifty device because it lets you pretty much navigate anything there is. And I'm going to talk a few tips on that as well.
Well, you know how they could have alleviated all of the confusion?
Put a ridge or something on it. Put a ridge. Well,
just put a little dot right in the middle.
They did. They put it on the menu buttons because remember people were on the old version.
Yeah, but that doesn't help you.
It guides you.
In the dark, you pick up that remote and you just point it at the TV. You're not hitting the menu. You're not doing that for whatever reason. You just start hitting it and nothing is happening. Or even worse, the palm of your hand is hitting the remote, but on the opposite side of what you're trying to do. And you're like, what's going on here? And then when you finally look at the remote, you realize, well, I've been an idiot. Look, I'm doing this the wrong way. So you turn it around.
That's right.
But, really, if all they did was just put a little tiny dot right
or something
in the trackpad, then you would know which end was which because it's all one color. So, other than how do you tell? How do you tell without looking which end is which?
I found it on one website. It doesn't matter where I found it, but they're showing somebody putting a rubber band on the bottom of the remote, so you could know that that's the bottom. I'm like, why would I want to put a rubber band on the remote? It makes it look like crap. I mean, let's be honest. That's why you look at the remote because you think it's a nice device. But yeah, I agree with you. They should have done that.
Well, the weird thing is I use the Apple remote upstairs for the older device.
Yeah.
But downstairs in the family room, I have a
that throws you off.
No, I have a Harmony remote by Logitech.
Yep.
And it's got Apple TV stuff built into it. So I just hit the button, make sure that I'm on, the Apple TV part of the Harmony One remote. And I just do everything from that. I don't even look at the Apple TV remote.
Yeah, well, I like to use this. Of course, there's an app on the iPhone you can use too, which is pretty awesome. I wasn't going to talk too much about that, but the coolest things they have on the remote now is adding Siri to the Apple TV is awesome.
Yes.
So it's so easy to navigate. You could talk your password so you don't have to type it.
And the weird thing is it works better with the Apple TV than it does.
Yeah, it does. I'm going B, A, N, D.
And it's just like bing, 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 bing. Even with the password. With the password. You can speak your password into your Apple remote when you're trying to log in. And it just works.
No, it's pretty awesome. The other buttons, play, pause, are pretty self-explanatory. The volume works great. I like how when the Apple TV is hooked up to your TV, if you tap it, I'm not going to do it because my TV will go on, and all of a sudden you'll start hearing some blaring something on CNN or something.
CNN.
Yeah,
sure.
It's that's another story. It turns the TV on because it senses the power and it sends the power to the TV.
Yeah.
Turn the TV on. I have a Samsung TV sitting next to me here in my office, and it's pretty awesome that it does that. So,
my Vizios do that too.
Yeah. This is a Samsung TV, so and play, pause, volume, all that stuff too.
Have you gotten any games for it?
I've played some of the games. That bowling game, I played the racing game, which it is kind of weird. They're holding this remote and they're going back and forth. I'm not a big gamer, honestly.
It doesn't work that well.
It doesn't.
I'm if Apple would come out with, and this is the thing, the hardware is solid.
Yeah,
for the Apple.
For sure.
The hardware is totally solid. What sucks is the things like the Apple remote, and that there's no true gamepad. If Apple, and here's the thing, you've got people that want to create games for the Apple TV.
Right.
But the problem is because they have to program these games down to the lowest common denominator, they have to come out with a way to make you be able to manipulate these games using the Apple remote.
Yep.
Whereas if Apple would actually come out with an official Apple game controller,
yep.
well, then they could make much better games for this device.
Oh, for sure.
And I know I'm going completely off the topic of what you wanted to talk about.
I'm giving you a little bit of slack here. Okay. It's got a great remote, and I think the navigation is just superb. You experience having the first gen Apple TV, and I can't even go back to it anymore because you can't move the apps around. You're stuck with whatever apps are on it.
Are you talking about the one that was like the size of the airport?
Yeah, the first gen. The first gen, not the first gen, a second gen. I'm sorry.
Oh, the small black ones.
Small black ones, yeah. The second gen was because those apps were all permanent. You didn't have any. You could remove apps, but you couldn't add any apps.
Well, you could add some content apps, but things like Facebook and Instagram and the game things like you couldn't add any of that stuff. Right. Whereas the one I have downstairs, the newer 4th gen, you've got all that stuff.
Oh, it's great.
I've considered getting a 4K Apple TV, but I'm kind of holding off until Apple makes their next move.
No, what I did is I remember when not too long ago, DirecTV had that little teaser. If you sign up for 3 months of our service for like next to nothing, like $40-$50 or whatever it was, you get a free Apple TV 4K. I'm like, okay, I'll do that, and then I canceled service right away. So I ended up getting a 4K for less than the cost of it because I think it was like paying DirecTV like $80 or something. Where you could buy a new when you go and buy a 4K new one, it's like $170. So
yeah,
the 4K. I mean, I don't even have 4K TVs, so I know it's
no, neither do I. So, but I got a 720p 42-inch upstairs and a 55 1080p downstairs, and that's
I'm happy with those. I have a 65 and a 32 and a 55 in my bedroom, so
yeah. And there's not really that much. There's still not much 4K content,
right?
Unless you go to a channel, it's like, wow, look at this! It's the river going downstream with fish jumping up and bears, and it's all in 4K. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. You got movies, Big Bang Theory, sports. Nothing's in 4K yet. Okay,
yeah. So a couple tips I'd like to throw out there with the Apple TV using the remote. Those screensavers are absolutely breathtaking, aren't they?
Oh yeah,
on 4K, and
I almost get vertigo watching the New York one.
Yeah.
You're like looking straight down. It's like,
there's a way you don't have to wait for the screensaver to come in, because usually what a screensaver is supposed to be is it's supposed to come in when you're inactive. But if you actually want to turn it on right away, you can just activate it manually by just double clicking on the menu button while you're on the home screen, and voila!
Really, I didn't know that.
The screensaver comes up.
That's the end of Dave's tips. Mostly clean.
Oh, you're funny. Switching between and forcing closing apps, very easy to do now because you just tap hold. They wiggle, and the menu comes up to force it to close. Skipping forward, backward, the touchpad is awesome. Trackpad, so you're moving back and forth, scrubbing through video. As I said, with a Siri, very easy, just by talking into it, and you can talk. You can ask Siri on the Apple TV and ask it to bring up a movie or a TV show or
even genres.
Or genres, yeah. So,
I want to show me science fiction movies, and it'll come up.
Yeah. They have added in the menu a restart where you can actually go in and it doesn't instantly reboot your Apple TV, because sometimes you may have to do that, just kind of clean it up. Just like it's a computer, let's face it. So you gotta
auto updates,
and you can set auto updates to be on there too. They do allow you to adjust the trackpad's sensitivity, so you can go back and if you don't like it, if it's too sensitive, like fast, put it to medium. So, I think I pretty much have covered up really what the remote and what Apple TV has as far as interacting with it. Who knows? We'll look at future episodes. Maybe we go a little more in depth what Apple TV does and dig into some of the apps. So that's Apple TV. So let's move on to. I had some listener feedback. I was excited.
Excellent.
Got an email from Steven. We met Steven actually at MacStock.
MacStock, yes.
If you remember him.
He was a great guy.
He was a very good guy, and we shout out to Steven. Thanks for writing in. And he says his sentiments were on selecting the iPad Pro 11.5. Oh, it's actually 11 inch, but the 11 inch iPad, and then said the new 12.9 was tempting, but after upgrading from the Air 2 to the Pro 10.5 and then the 11, just seemed right and where I wanted to use the tablet. I felt exactly the same way. I thought the 12.9 inch to me was just too big. I was very tempted. The new Pencil Face ID, Super Retina display with a terabyte of memory makes this a beast. Well, he went with a terabyte. Oof.
Yeah, and the weird thing is with most, Apple keeps coming out with devices that have more and more internal storage at the same time that their services are making it so that you don't need that much storage anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So he goes on to say he synced it with his iPhone XS Max, and him and I got the same stuff. He must have been listening with all the stuff I bought. So fully loaded made it one stupendous combo. I can't agree with him more.
Yeah, no doubt.
They're both awesome to have together. And one thing he suggested, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it, is no one ever talks about it, is screen recording. He uses it a lot as his volunteer work at his library. And you can narrate while you're recording, and it makes demonstrations go so much smoother. And for him, he says, and you can write a script and not forget about anything as you talk alongside with your screen recording. And there's no buffering, which is true. It works really well as far as that goes. And you can get over, and then he was using it in his library, so you can get it over the public library's Wi-Fi. The videos play back from your device, and it's a great way of incorporating a video in Keynote, so you could transfer that video because it goes right into your videos when you record it. Have you used Screencast, the screen recording on your iPhone at all?
I've played with a little bit. I haven't because I don't do, because I do some video tips and trips. Tips and trips.
Okay.
Yeah, tips and trips over there on the Tubes of You.
Tubes of You.
And so far it's been almost all Mac stuff.
Yeah.
So, but there's really no reason why I couldn't. I just spend most of my time when I'm here at home, on my Mac.
Yeah. So let me go through just a few tips for you, Stephen, and for the rest of the listeners. How the first thing you probably have to know is how to enable screen recording, or where is it turned on. Well, when you go into the iPhone, you go into Settings, then you go under Control Center. Under Control Center, you go into Customize Controls, and then in there, that's where you include, the Control Center on phone 10 and 10s. And the menu comes up from the top right, from the top right down. The iPhone 8 goes from the bottom up.
Oh, right. Okay.
I had to make sure I said that.
You're confusing me.
I had to make sure I repeated myself with that because I was on Allison Sheridan's show and doing my tips with her, and we did not mention that. So it's in different places on the iPhone 8 versus the iPhone 10 and 10s. When you go into that, you can customize it, and you can add any of these controls that you want in here. So if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see one of the choices called screen recording. So you add that to the menu. So then the iPhone 8, you come up. The iPhone 10, you come from the top. I'll be coming from the top. There's a little button that's there. It's an icon that's with a circle with a button through it, a button in it. So you just tap it, and it starts counting down. Now, once it says done, and it goes red, it's going to start recording your screen. And you can do anything. You can manipulate. You can basically do anything you want to show somebody something by recording the screen. It's probably one of the most niftiest features that Apple added. I believe they added this in iOS 11. And then what you do is at the top left, it has a red button with the time on it, and you tap it, and you just tell it to stop, and then it stops. And now that recording is in your videos, and it tells
Easy
you.
peasy.
It tells you screen recording saved to your videos, and you can tap it, and then you go back there and look at it, and then it'll show you where it's at. Now, to get sound enabled, because by default, what it does is it does not turn the sound on by default. So that same button that I tapped while you were in the control center, if you tap and hold it using the 3D touch, you have a choice of a couple places that you could set as far as screen recording and turning on the microphone. There is a visible menu that's on there So there's places you can go. You can go to the camera roll, and in my choices here, I also have Zoom, that's how we're talking to you today using the Zoom system. Where you can actually do the screen recording and be showing it on Zoom, which is pretty nifty. And then
really, and it just does it over Wi-Fi?
It does, yeah. So and then Microsoft Teams, which I'm actually working on now at work because we're really pushing to get people to use Teams. That's a whole other topic. And then at the very bottom, there's a button there that says microphone off. Well, you tap that, turn your microphone on. So now when you record your screen recording, now it's going to record not only the screen, it's going to record your voice. And you start recording, and away you go. That's all there is to it. Not much else. Awesome. Yeah, not much else I could say about screen recording, but beyond check it out, because anytime I want to show somebody something, I'll do a screen recording and show them whether I narrate it or I don't narrate it. And it's a quick way of doing that without having to go through, because there's folks out there we know that do screencasts, and that's quite a lot more elaborate, where you can hook your iPhone to your Mac and record your screen that way. But you want something quick, simple, and nitty gritty. You just get into the screen recording, and away you go to check that out. So
I think it would actually be easier just to do it from the phone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's really all you have to do is do it from the phone. If that's what that's the content that you're recording. So
and just bring it over with iCloud.
Exactly. So next tip I wanted to throw out there was how do you turn off? Do you ever get those memories pop up and say you have a memory that happened on this day, date of all your and then photos? I mean, it's a kind of a cool feature. All of a sudden, I see photos from like 2015, and like, oh my god, I remember that. And it brings it up from your Photos app, because it's like kind of like it's a new feature in Photos called Memories, and there is a way to turn that off if you don't want it to be notifying you. And the way you do that is you go into the Settings app, either the iPad or the iPhone, because it could pop up either way for you. And then go into Notifications, and then tap on Photos. And then you tap the Memories choice in there, and you could tell it, do you want to allow notifications at all? If you want to turn it off, you can do it completely turned off. Or you can say specifics. If you want just banners or sounds, you can choose, just like anything else in notifications. And you can go in there and turn off allow notifications. You may not want to be bothered with that. Just go in there, make the changes, and voila, it won't bother you anymore.
Awesome.
But I kind of like that feature, because it's kind of fun to see, because it doesn't bother you that often. But
yeah, I wonder. I don't even know if I've got mine turned on or not.
Yeah, so it is pretty cool as far as that goes. One more tip I'm going to throw out there is I wanted to talk about. I'm going to skip a couple things here. Connecting your Bluetooth headphones and your speakers. You have AirPods, right? I believe you do.
Yes.
And I also have the Power Beats, the earphones, and I'm wearing the Power Beats headphones. And the cool thing about the AirPods and the Power and the Beats headphones, which are owned by Apple as well, they all have what's called the T2. Is it the T1 chip? I think it is.
T2, the security chip.
I think it's a T1 for these. So maybe I'm wrong. It could be T2. And that chip allows the device to be able to be automatically stored on your iPhone, your iPad, in iCloud. So when you sync it for the first time with Bluetooth, because like normally when you sync like a speaker or any other device, you could tell it to forget it. And
after you're done
using it, well, you can tell you to forget it, but you can also delete it. But if you delete it, it'll just disappear on the iPhone. Now with AirPods and Power Beats, if you delete it, it's going to delete it across all your devices. And that's what's great about the AirPods, and including your Mac too. I mean, because now when you have it stored across all of your devices, you can go to any one of the devices, AirPods and Power Beats, and just enable it. You don't have to mess around. Once you sync it once, it's there for everything.
Yeah, and it knows it has, each one has a unique device ID, so it's not like somebody else can come up with an exact duplicate of whatever it is that you're trying to sync up and get on to your device, because it has a different product ID or a different device ID.
Yeah, exactly. So, but syncing Bluetooth is pretty straightforward, and I think Bluetooth devices have gotten pretty a lot better than they've had in the past. Because a lot of times you'd have these earphones that they would drop and you lose connection. I actually bought one of those sleeping earphones that you can, it's like kind of like a big wrapper on your face. And I put them on at night, and the speakers are built into the cloth. And it's cool because this thing has this little pad on there. You just tap, hold it, and it says device on. And then a few seconds later, connected. So it's the Bluetooth devices I'm noticing have gotten a lot more efficient when it comes to that. Sometimes a little too efficient. Because that I would have that thing, I'd fall asleep, and then I had to sleep through the night listening to my favorite podcast, and then I would take it off, put it at my bedside, and then I would have the phone. I would go get dressed for the morning, and then all of a sudden trying to play something. I was like, how is this thing playing? Oh, it's playing those headphones because it's staying connected all the time. So
yeah, I used to do that, except I would be listening to like Megadeth, and I had these really weird dreams.
I wonder why. All right. Lastly, I do have one device that I wanted to talk about, and the link is in our show notes. It's called the Osmo Mobile 2 Handheld Smartphone Gimbal. And what this device is, I think it's probably one of the niftiest things I've ever seen. I guess you could call it a selfie stick, but I don't necessarily think it is. Really what it does is it does have an active track that works with the iPhone. It has a specific
it's a gimbal.
app. It's a gimbal, yes. So it's got motion lamps, zoom control, and the app actually keeps the phone balanced and allows you to be able to do selfies, take pictures, or just use it as like I said, a gimbal to just go around a room and use it as a photo device.
And it'll keep it prevent the shakes.
No shakes. It's got stability, smooth moves, time and motion, cinematic control. This is one of the biggest bargains I've ever seen. I bought this at the Apple Store probably about 6 or 8 months ago. I just happened to find out about it by mistake. I was I like going to the Apple Store, and they have their sessions there today at Apple. So they had one of their photo sessions. I figured, what the heck, I'll check it out. I like going to their sessions just to kind of see how they do things, because I do a lot of training. And then this lady had the gimbal, and I'm like, wow, God, that thing is so cool. And I guess originally it used to be like $300 to one of these devices.
Yeah, gimbals, really good gimbals for cameras, they're not cheap.
No. So Apple is selling it for $129. So the price...
That's even cheaper than here on the site.
Yeah, this device is a great price. In fact, I just did it on the gift guide with Chuck Joyner. They had it on sale during Black Friday for $119.
Wow.
So I'll link to it in the show notes. It's a really neat device. You can pan back and forth. You can zoom. The company app, the company's name is DJI, and it's really nifty. You'll have to check it out because I think it's a great device. So with that, Guy, do you have anything else you wanted to talk about that relates to iOS before we wrap this up?
Well, one of the things that I like to use in my mobile podcasting kit, is the only types of microphones that I use are dynamic mics. The problem with dynamic mics is they're typically not nearly as loud as condenser mics. So you have to boost the signal a little bit. And when I first tried it, like for the microphone I'm using right now, which is a Heil PR40, I use what's called a cloud lifter. When I was originally putting my mobile kit together, I was using this thing from this company called Simply Sound, and it was the SS1. And what sort of a sore subject there. What these devices basically do is boost the amount of gain that you have available for microphones, dynamic microphones only, anywhere from 20 to 25 dB, which for gain-hungry dynamic mics is a godsend. I ended up getting away from the SS1s, and I went with what's called Triton Fed heads, which are much smaller devices and pretty much just go right in line with XLR cables. Well, Simply Sound, I guess, kind of looked at the design of the Fed heads and decided, because the original ones, as you know, Dave, they're kind of a square, boxy shape.
Yeah.
So what they've ended up doing is going along the same lines as what Fed head is doing, and making it so that it just kind of goes in line with XLR cables. You can actually take, either a Fed head or this new SS1, which I've ordered one because I'm a glutton for punishment. Plug that directly into your audio interface or your mixer or whatever device it is that you connect your microphone to, and then XLR out of that to your microphone. And so they come in various shapes and sizes and prices. The cloud lifters are typically around $150. The Fed heads are about $100, and the Simply Sounds you can typically get for around $50. Apparently, one of the problems with the Simply Sound is they don't seem to last as long as they should, according to certain people.
Me.
So, but I'm going to try this new one, and if they disappoint me again, then I'll probably never buy another one from them. But I can tell you, the cloud lifters are fantastic, really robust, work really well.
And you use those with your iPad, right?
Well, you can't, but I mean, basically, these aren't meant to go directly into the iPad. These are meant to go into audio interfaces, and interfaces connect up to your iPad through the Apple Connection Kit. Or if you're lucky enough to have one that has a direct Lightning port out, like the IK Multimedia device that we were talking about earlier. But in my mobile kit, I actually have a Behringer UMC 404 HD. You saw that at MacStop.
Right.
I had 4 microphones with Fed head preamps all connected up, and then the output of that was USB. And even though I had it connected to a Mac laptop, I could have connected that to my iPad and had 4-track audio directly into the iPad and recorded. People do this all, and not just 4-track. There are versions of the Behringer makes one, so does Motu, so does Focusrite, and so many other companies with up to 18 outputs out of USB. And most of them you can record multi-track into iOS.
All right. Well, we don't want to get too technical because people are going to be like, "What are you talking about?" So, but
sorry,
don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
This is a passion. This is a passion project.
That's one thing I enjoyed hanging out with Guy and talking to him and being on all his podcasts. We'll mention all his podcasts in just a second here. But that's what really got me passionate about podcasting and learning about it. And you really can use your iOS devices in a lot of ways to do them. So. But anyway, let's close this out. That is a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address. Feedback.
Death threats to Guy.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Feedback at intouchwithios.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at intouchwithios. You can subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcatcher. Also find us on the iTunes Store, on Apple Podcasts. I'm on Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify. We're even on Intune. Better yet, be sure you visit our website at intouchwithios.com, and all the links I just mentioned are there. Just simply click. You can add a comment to the show notes as well on the website. Well, my name is Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. I want to thank my guest this week, Guy Serle. Where can everybody find you? You can now use this time for your shameless plugs.
Oh, it's so very easy. You can contact me via email, guy@mymac.com, probably. Mm-hmm. Also over on the Twitters, where I am Mac Pettit, MacParrot. Yep. I do a couple of different podcasts. I do the My Mac podcast. I've been doing that for, it'll be 9 years next March, with Gazmaz. I do on Wednesday nights, typically live on Facebook, the Mac to the Future Go livecast. I did that with you last night. Somebody's on there.
Will be every week, I think. I'll meet.
It's live without a net. I mean, there is whatever comes out of my mouth is what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
And I also do. I haven't done many of them lately. I've got a recording set up in my car, and I do this thing called Guy's Daily Drive, and that's both audio and video. You can find all of that over in YouTube's if you look up my name, Guy Serle, Serle.
Yep.
I've also got some tips and tricks videos over there. You can subscribe to that over there in the YouTubes. I'm going to be doing a new one relatively soon. Dave knows about this product, but I can't talk about it yet because I'm kind of under NDA.
So, all right, well, we'll talk about it.
But it is an awesome product.
Thanks.
And that's basically it.
Thanks for joining me, guy. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
And then thanks for listening, everybody. Please be sure you subscribe, and we will chat next time.